carving techniques. It's a radical idea, one that completely rewrites the story of the Americas' origins. The evidence for this claim is, admittedly, highly contentious and debated. Beyond the visual interpretation of the statues, supporters point to other potential clues. These include certain parallels in religious beliefs, the potential presence of pyramidal structures in both cultures, and even contested botanical evidence suggesting the pre-Columbian presence of African plants in the Americas. The theory gains its credibility from the sheer difficulty of explaining how the Olmecs achieved what they did, seemingly from nowhere. It offers a neat, if revolutionary, solution to the puzzle of their sudden cultural explosion in the Mesoamerican timeline. However, the vast majority of archaeologists and historians vehemently reject this theory. They argue that the features on the Olmec heads are entirely consistent with the physical traits of the modern-day indigenous inhabitants of the region. They point out the complete lack of any confirmed African artifacts in Olmec archaeological sites. There are no African tools, no pottery, no skeletal remains that have been proven to be of African origin from that period. Critics state that the theory is based on superficial resemblances and ignores the vast body of evidence for the independent development of Mesoamerican civilizations. The Olmec mystery therefore remains a battleground between visual interpretation and the stark absence of hard archaeological proof. We now move forward in time to the classic Maya civilization, which flourished between 250 and 900 CE. The Maya were masters of astronomy, mathematics, and writing. They built spectacular cities like Tikal and Palenque. Then, something strange happened. Around the 9th century, the great southern lowland cities were abandoned. The Maya stopped carving their historical records onto stone monuments, and the jungle began to reclaim their magnificent urban centers. The traditional explanation for this collapse involves a combination of factors: prolonged drought, endemic warfare, disease, and environmental degradation. But what if this wasn't a collapse at all? A less dramatic but perhaps more intriguing theory posits that this was not a catastrophic societal breakdown. Instead, it was a deliberate, organized, and strategic migration. This theory suggests the Maya elite, the priests, astronomers, and rulers, saw the writing on the wall. They understood that their way of life, based on divine kingship and intensive agriculture in a fragile environment, was no longer sustainable. Rather than watch their society crumble into chaos, they made a conscious decision to leave. They orchestrated a mass exodus, leading their people away from the failing cities towards new opportunities in the northern Yucatan and the highlands. This idea of a managed abandonment finds its footing in several interesting pieces of evidence. Archaeological findings show that while the great southern cities emptied, new settlements began to flourish in the north, like Chichen Itza and Uxmal. These new centers carried on many Maya traditions, albeit in a modified form. Furthermore, the abandonment of the southern cities appears to have been relatively orderly. There is a lack of widespread evidence for a final desperate battle or a citywide massacre in many key sites. Instead, it looks as though people simply packed up and left, leaving their temples and palaces to the elements in a surprisingly peaceful manner. Of course, this theory is not without its critics. Many historians argue that it downplays the very real evidence of suffering and violence found at the end of the classic period. Skeletal remains from some sites do show signs of malnutrition, and fortifications were being built around some cities, suggesting a state of conflict. The idea of a perfectly coordinated, top-down exodus of hundreds of thousands of people seems logistically improbable. It's more likely, critics say, that the truth lies somewhere in the middle, a combination of environmental pressures and social